This episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast is brought to you in part by No Judges Needed BJJ Apparel and Lavender Lane CBD products. You can use the promo code JJT for 20% off your first order at No Judges Needed, and the code JJTimes20, all uppercase. Last two items are numerical for 20% off your first order of CBD products. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Enjoy the show. Guten Tag, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. Ich bin your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. And today we are joined by an incredibly special guest, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, coming by way of the Carlson Gracie School in London, and most recently of all, the recently crowned king of British grappling, as a Polaris Grand Prix champion, Frédéric Vosgröne. Frédéric, hello. Thank you very much for joining us and indulging me there. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just get things started. You just came off of an absolutely career-making performance at Polaris. How you feeling?
Yeah, pretty happy. Obviously, especially with the money now in my bank account, life is a lot better.
I'd imagine as a pro grappler, there's always you always win, but the worry isn't gone just because of the way things can go in this sport until the check clears.
No. To be honest, Polaris, I had zero doubts that they will pay me. I think they are pretty legit organization. But yeah, definitely with some shows you'd be a bit more scared, but Polaris, actually, I gotta say, is definitely really professional, at least from what I've seen, the most professional event in jiu-jitsu. But it's more because now I feel like I can call myself professional athlete, because I actually made money off competing, and not just teaching or whatever. So in my mind, that was actually the winning bet, and now being able to live off that money, just from competing, actually means to me that I'm a professional athlete, because before maybe you get a grant or something, but nothing really. Yeah, at least yeah.
I feel very awkward right now because you're saying now you feel like you can call yourself a professional athlete. I once won a sub-only silver medal at white belt, and I was ready to call myself a pro athlete right out of the gate.
Straight to your Instagram endorsements. Where are my sponsors at?
I was immediately after I was thinking about getting samurai tattoos, and I was thinking of quitting my job and dropping out of school. I was like, this is it for me.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, when I was a white belt and I won my first competition, I also felt that way. I was yeah, I'm the man. I want some random white belt competition.
It's funny how as you start to go up to belt ranks and as you compete a little bit and kind of get on some bigger shows, you realize how silly. It's not really silly because there's something to be proud about when you go out and compete. It's the reason why we stress for our younger belts to go out and compete, because it's a different thing when you're competing. You're learning different skill sets and you're learning how to work in an environment where you can't just tap and move on. Yeah, so you have to go to win. But it's so funny to see some of these guys, because I ref local tournaments and shit all the time, and I can remember being that guy too. But you see these guys and they're like, bro, we just won the intermediate division, at the local high school. It's cool, but we don't have to.
With their sponsorship, with their shirt or whatever, their
right.
With all their sponsors.
Exactly. We don't need to start calling Metrex for your sponsorship deal yet, brother. You got a little ways to go still.
But even if you're on a bigger show, you have people that's it's their first bigger event or something,
right?
And I can remember when I was first time on a show, I was man, amazing, and then looking back, it's okay, you're on the undercard, nobody really
right. Let's talk a little bit about screw you, by the way, because I've been on the undercard for some pretty big shows too, so I consider myself to be on that level, you prick. But
yeah,
no,
I'm not making friends here.
no, I'm joking. You're good. Let's talk a little bit about that mental mindset and the skills that you learn from competing in order to get level-headed enough to be able to say, okay, cool, like I deserve to be here. Because one of the biggest things I talk about as a competitor in being able to compete on a bigger stage is to realize that you're not just there as a spectator. Like you're not just like the little special kid that they said, oh, good thing, thanks, Frederick. You know, go ahead and give it your best and see what happens. But there has to be an actual mindset that leads you to believe, to say to yourself, you know what, like I'm not just the guy they let slip in. Like I'm here to win this thing. I don't care who they have against me. Like, tell me about how that plays into you and how you got to that position.
So yeah, I think pretty good question actually. So yeah, because I was always training in Germany, right? So back then I didn't have any access to like high level competitions, you know. So until I got my black belt, basically, I never, at least not no gi. With gi, I did like, I fought like Dominic Bell, like at London Open or something. So with gi, I had like some experience on like higher level competition when I was a brown belt, but no gi, I never competed against anyone like really good until I got my black belt. So for the first like 6 months as a black belt, yeah, you know, it was just for me, you know, seeing like what is, you know, the level, you know, where I need to be, you know. So I fought, some really high level guys, and yeah, I beat some, and then yeah, I lost some, you know. Mostly, I think the only person that really like, yeah, beat me like on points, you know, with like was Tractor. But otherwise, you know, all the high level world class guy I fought was always, you know, like an advantage. Maybe I lost or I won, you know. So those 6 months of competing as black belt, you know, and realizing that I'm actually right up there, you know, with every high level guy, that actually gave me the confidence, to really feel like, yeah, I'm the man and I can beat everyone, you know. And then they had like the original Polaris Grand Prix, so with the Kenan Duarte, Nicky Rod, Patrick Gaudio, and other big names. So I was preparing 4 months from the beginning of the year until it would have been in April. I was preparing for that Grand Prix, and in that time I went out of my way to find like special training, you know, and trained with like I went to Belarus to train with like Olympic medalists in wrestling, you know, and stuff like that. So preparing for this Grand Prix and like really believing that I can win it, you know, really believing that, okay, I'm gonna go, then I'm gonna beat Kenan Duarte, you know, really believing it. Then when they announced that it's UK Grand Prix, yeah, I had no doubt in my mind that I'm the guy to win it, you know. So if that answers your question.
No,
I forgot your question, to be honest.
No, you're good. I think what happens a lot of times to kind of piggyback on what I said is that, you know, as grapplers, you know, we grow up looking at stars, you know, in any particular instance. You know, you grow up looking at people and you say to yourself, wow, that guy's so amazing. That guy's like my hero. That guy's, you know, superhuman. And we make ourselves believe that for some reason, like there's no way that we'd ever be able to be on that level. And then when you go out there and you compete with him and you hang, you can start to tell yourself, wow, like that dude's just like me. Like that dude, did you hang out with him afterwards and you talk to him? It's like, bro, that's just some dude. And like, you know, because he's some dude, like in the Predator, the movie, just to quote one of your fellow people, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know,
he's Austrian. Come on.
You know,
Kevin.
I'm a stupid American. It's all the same shit. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm only joking. But you know, if it can bleed, it can die. So if you humanize something and realize you're allowed to be there, and all of a sudden you're capable of competing on that level.
Yeah, definitely. Like for example, specifically, one kind of big moment for me was so when I did Nogi Euros and I beat Thiago Sa by submission, and because when I did Nogi Euros as a purple belt, I remember Thiago Sa won as a black belt, you know, think he won my division as a black belt. So when I was a purple belt, right, I was looking at okay, who are the guys winning my divisions as a black belt, right? And then a couple of years later, I'm there fighting the guy, and then before the match I was like, because I knew that he was like super good, So before the match I was like really like, okay, that's like I know I can beat him, I just need to really perform to my level. That I know I can how I can fight in the gym, I just need to be able to perform like that against him. Because before that I did Nogi Pan Ams, was my first competition as a black belt. There I fought Tractor, I fought Devante Johnson, so like high level guys. And there was like I really was like mentally wasn't, like prepared, really, So after that tournament, after that experience, went to the next one and then fighting there, that was a big step for me. And then once when I got the victory, I was like, okay, I actually, managed to beat the guy that won my division as a black belt years ago, Yeah.
Well, I think that's an interesting point to sort of take things back a little bit. And I'm really curious as to how you found your way to jiu-jitsu and when exactly, because I remember you said in an interview, I think it was in the lead up to Polaris, that your background was that in your native country, the game was a lot different. It wasn't as developed. Jiu-jitsu was a lot more spread out. I think you talked about dealing mainly with purple and blue belts in your early days. So just to kind of describe how you found jiu-jitsu and what that early did before you started training at Carlson's, like what it was like.
So I started jiu-jitsu when I was 16. I think I just like 8 years ago exactly. And back then there were like only like a handful of jiu-jitsu gyms around, right? So I was training with like 2 purple belts and was training there until I got my blue belt. And at that point, like as a white belt, I did like 2 competitions, like I know, like the smallest of the smallest, And then I did I got my blue belt, and then I actually switched gyms, and because I was kind of outgrown, that place, so I switched gyms and was training with some guys that I still train with to this day in Germany, and they were actually like pretty good guys, in Nogi, because Nogi is or at least was far more spread than gi grappling in Germany. So they were actually like I think on like a pretty high level compared to other Nogi people, where where the gi level was fairly low if you would compare it with like other European gyms,
Yeah.
But the Nogi training was actually like I think we had like a pretty high level training in Nogi, so that like level of training partners until like purple belt never really was an issue, So until purple belt was really good, and then when I got my purple belt, actually I went training at Carlson Gracie London, where I train now. I went for the first time before I did Nogi Euros back then, so I was training there for 1 month, because of my best friend. He moved there, so I could just stay with him and went train there for 1 month, and then I visited like a couple of times over the next 12 months, and then they offered me to come there, train full time, and then that's how I ended up there. And then at that point, training in the UK, there were just so much more possibilities in terms of super fights or tournaments in general. You have like whatever, you have London Open. It's just like it's just a train ride away, where London Open, when you're from Germany, it's going to be 400 euros, to pay or whatever. So and then all the super fight shows, Grapple Fest and Polaris, obviously, and Battle Grapple, where I fought, just so many, that then I could really start. Before that, I had like some good victories, in Europe, but nothing on like a bigger stage. So even you get a good victory when you fought, I fight somebody at a Naga tournament that is really good, like Miha Perhavec,
Yeah.
So I fought him at a Naga tournament. I beat him with a heel hook, so pretty good back then. But nobody sees it, like the Naga tournament. Like the only way you see it if you watch my.
I mean, you get a cool sword sometimes. Like that's gotta feel good.
Oh yeah, no, that was my first belt. Like, I think I was more happy with that than about the Polaris belt.
Well, they make it feel good to win that. But just taking it back briefly, what I was really interested in, just because in areas
give me 1 second, buddy. I got to go find out what my dog's barking about. It's making me crazy.
No worries, man.
I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Let me go see if
we'll hold down
the house isn't burning down. Keep going.
Yeah, we'll hold down the fort. Sorry, we play it fast and loose here on the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast, and we are very dog friendly. But so in an area like yours where Jiu-Jitsu, like for me personally, I grew up in an area, I didn't start Jiu-Jitsu until I was like 19. So like almost going on 5 years ago, I was surrounded by a lot of densely populated big schools. So I had a lot of options. There was Henzo schools, there was 10th Planet schools, there was a lot. In an area like yours, how does a 16-year-old Freddy A, find jiu-jitsu, and B, like what drove you to give it a shot?
So actually a funny thing. So I found jiu-jitsu playing UFC Undisputed 3 on my PlayStation.
Sorry.
Okay,
keep going. Wait. Just so, because I want Kevin to hear this. So Kev, I just asked Freddy how he got into jiu-jitsu. Freddy, you take it from there.
Yeah, so I've never heard of Brazilian jiu-jitsu ever until I played UFC Undisputed 3. And I just found that submitting somebody from the guard is just like the coolest thing ever, exactly. So after that, I played the game for like 2 months, I played the game 2 months trying to figure out like some moves.
That's
trying to know what an armbar is or whatever.
That's slightly disappointing. I would imagine that you learned your art through some kind of like Germanic experience into your old like Nordic roots and
Kevin,
decided to be a warrior.
Shut up! You shut up. That's the best. That is the best jiu-jitsu origin story I think I've ever heard in my life.
But look! It was more like back then. I was just like like nerd playing video games, and then through jiu-jitsu, I channeled my inner Viking powers.
That's cool.
Became the guy I am today.
That's cool, man.
Oh my god! So you're playing UFC Undisputed. Like, were you into sports as a kid, or were you just because you're a naturally big guy? I was wondering.
Yeah, no, actually, literally, I was like the least athletic kid ever. I sucked at every sport. And then I never wanted to do any sport because I sucked at it. So basically until I did jiu-jitsu, I did judo as like I don't know 10-year-old, but like I always knew I wanted to do martial art, but my mom never really wanted me to do any. So yeah, when I was 16 and I found jiu-jitsu, I was like, okay, there's no striking, it's just like grappling. It's like judo. I did judo before. Come on, you can let me do it. So yeah, and then literally I did jiu-jitsu first class, and actually I almost happened to do the traditional jiu-jitsu class. It was at the same time. So and then I saw a guy with Brazilian jiu-jitsu shirt, and I was like, okay, I need to go there because it was like going on like next to each other. And then after the first class, and I was pretty fat, like really fat. So after the first class, so I was like the most exercise I've ever done in my life. But yeah, I loved it. Like after the first class, I was like, okay, never gonna stop again. I'm gonna become world champion. That's it. And then never looked back really.
I just gotta imagine you going up to this guy with the shirt and you're going, "Oh, BJJ from the video game." Did you also play UFC?
Show him the video game cartridge. Can you teach me to do this?
I didn't want to give away that I knew some moves, you know, so I didn't tell anyone, you know.
Oh my God. I've heard of guys going into class after like watching technique videos, never after having played UFC Undisputed 3. That is awesome, man. So now that you've been training, how many years have you been training in London?
So full time 2 years, and the first time, yeah, like 3 years. So yeah, let's say 3 years.
Is that where you got your black belt?
Yes, a year ago, pretty much.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Did you find your competitive abilities and your jiu-jitsu skills overall improve as you moved to train with more talented competitors and more talented teammates?
Yeah, also just to be honest, more the the amount of training, and you know, because then I could train twice a day rather than 6 times a week, you know. So, and just the amount of different training partners, where like I feel like you don't really need the best training partners in the world to get really good, you know. But more about just the variety of training partners, because I could even, you know, all the other gyms that are around, you know, if you go to an open mat and then at our gym you have like 20 black belts, you know, or whatever. So just a variety of different styles, and so I think that really improved, you know, just because in my gym, you know, I would never encounter somebody that plays like De La Riva guard or reverse De La Riva guard. So if I would go competing against somebody and he puts me into like somebody really good and puts me in De La Riva guard, then I'm like, okay, I never really been in that situation a lot. So now, you know, basically you get put in all situations, you know. So and then after a year of that, then you're comfortable everywhere, you know.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too, because you know when you train at a particular gym, this is where I kind of talk about when I talk about the importance of cross training and why I can't understand how some gyms don't allow cross training. It just kind of like makes me a little bit nutty.
The funny thing is that my gym actually was
yeah.
well known for not letting anybody cross train.
Oh wow!
But they changed that policy.
Yeah, I think about it in the regards of what's funny. I think about it in the regards of what you said about getting different looks. You know, because when in jiu-jitsu is a little bit different. Like guys tend to branch off and kind of go about their own little ways. But you know, when you train in a particular gym and your head instructor, normally everybody that trained underneath you is training under the head instructor in some accord. So their philosophy and their techniques are generally going to be in accordance to what that particular professor likes to teach. So now, you know, you don't do a whole lot of, they don't do a lot of spider guard for an example. Like you don't do a lot of spider guard at your gym. So rather than you know, the when you go now and compete against someone who may not be as good at jiu-jitsu, but because they train a lot of spider guard, like you're not prepared to deal with that.
Well, look, so the best example is leg locks, right?
Right.
Like you have somebody with amazing jiu-jitsu and he fights the blue belt, you know, that has a good HEELHOOK entry, and it's over, right? Like I think that's the best example for that. But especially you know, I'm really big at trying to be as well-rounded as possible, you know. I really try to, you know, be, it doesn't matter where, even I always try to, you know, impose my game, but in general, you know, I never want to get into a position where I'm not feeling I'm better than the other person, you know. So especially you know, especially then when you, like in Germany, we're always trying to, you know, improve on our spider guard or whatever. But if you never really feel somebody with a good spider guard, you know, how you gonna learn it, you know? Or if you never really felt somebody with a good berimbolo, just from watching Rafa Mendes, you know, you're not really gonna get like the small details, you know.
As an instructor, I have grown past that, because there was a certain point in my life where I would start to say like, well, you know, spider guard just isn't really effective for me, or leg locks. But if you're not
Yeah.
teaching leg locks now, you're just not teaching jiu-jitsu anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If you're not teaching leg locks, like, you're just silly, because you're
wasting
like
your time.
you're wasting your time. It's a part of the game. It's there. We have to know them. But insert any like deep half guard or something like that, for example. Like, where deep half guard may not work for me, right? I in turn at least have to be familiar with deep half guard if I'm going to go against someone that runs deep half guard, so I can understand their tendencies and at least somewhat of what could happen from those positions. And just because I'm not good at it doesn't mean that some other guy in the gym won't turn it into their. I'm very good at deep half guard, by the way, but I don't know why that popped in my head. But
best guard.
Yeah,
Definitely the best guard.
Yeah.
For example, like, let's say, because I'm like, I play half guard, deep half guard, or like half butterfly guard, that's about it when it comes to playing guard. But even if I have to play De La Riva, I have one good move. I have one good move from there, that I can do on, or actually maybe two, but still, even if I'd fight, I don't know, the best, Bushesha, I have one or two moves, even from De La Riva guard, where I'm like, okay, I can go for that, So, even from close guard, I never play close guard, but at least I'm gonna have a strategy for that if I have to do it, if I end up there,
if something happens,
or at least I have something from there where I can get to my good position, where I think a lot of times you can put, like, for example, I always pass to the right side. Already that throws so many people off their game, when they can't stop you from passing to their weak side. So even doesn't matter I always try. It doesn't matter if somebody passes to my left side, even though all my attacks are mainly from my right side. But for example, Thiago Sa, he passed my half guard on left side, and I ended up tapping him. You know what I mean? Like, even though my game is very limited on that side, but still I've one good move from there. So I'm
I'm getting a really solid like X pass, just like from in gi, because that's primarily what I play. And I'm doing it. I'm hitting it a lot in practice, but even the thought of trying it on my right side it gripped my heart. Like, oh no, I can't.
Well, you have to think about, like, I pass to both sides, but a lot of times, like, I'll run my over under pass, and I'm usually always going to the left side. But if I want to pass to the right side, Marcelo Garcia was famous for saying this. Like, I don't have to run the same exact pass to the opposite side. I just have to have an idea of how to get there when he reacts to that way. Marcelo Garcia said that famously about his guillotine. He's like, they were like, do you ever learn how to do the guillotine with your left arm? And he's like, no, I don't do that, because if I go to the left arm, I do something else. I'm just not powerful from there. It's just Don Danaher's the same way. He's like, I do my guillotine with my right arm real hard, but I can't finish it that way. So when I go to the opposite side, I run the arm in guillotine, or vice versa.
Yeah. Like, you can actually, like, in my second match, you can actually see, like, because I was always passing to the right side, but in my second match, I actually did one of the passes I do to the left side. I didn't get points for it because I couldn't hold the side control long enough. But I got past the legs and was just a bit slippery, and I lost a bit. But so even though all my main passing is just going right, but then if somebody gives me that opening, because they want to defend their right side, I go right through, So, but takes a lot of time and effort. Like, you're not gonna, like, I think I never really. I mean, I had like good success, like, in my area, but I never had like massive success as like a blue belt, because as a blue belt, it's just better to just do the one thing that you do for the last 2-3 years, from white belt to blue belt. Like, you have a good spider guard and you do triangles, and that's it. Like, that's the way to win a blue belt. But if you get to higher level, like, you really need to invest time into become well-rounded, I think. But you're not gonna, if you can play, because as a blue belt, I was trying like everything, like literally everything. Like, I was trying to do berimbolos, I was trying to do, reverse Del Riva, all that kind of stuff. And then by the time when I was a purple belt, I was like, okay, not my thing. I stick to the half guard, but at least, I tried everything to know what was for me or was not, what was not for me. But then I had a competition maybe where I went in and, played Del Riva, because that was what all I was doing for the last 2 months, and then, okay, I lose, because I make a mistake, because I'm not really doing it for that long. And then, okay, still a good learning experience, where if I just go in there with my A game every single time, then how you gonna really improve your overall jiu-jitsu, I think. Because like deep half guard, for example, I mean, I never do it in training. Rarely. For me, doing deep half guard in training, because I'm so good at it, I don't even need to do it anymore. I rather spend my time trying something else. But I've done it so much. Like, if I have to compete, I can do it. I don't even need to think about it. So I rather just and that level I reached maybe let's say 2 years ago. I reached that level with my deep half guard. So from that point on, I really focused on doing other things, because if I would have just kept playing deep half guard, I think I would have just stayed on that level, and sure, I could have, because with my deep half guard back then, I would score on everyone, literally, everyone, doesn't matter with who I was in training, doesn't matter if it's a world champion or something, deep half guard works on everyone, so I maybe still would have won a lot of stuff with it, but now I have my deep half guard and I have everything else too, and now I feel really confident.
Yeah, it's important to remember that too, and I say that a lot in training, because again, I'm like you, I run deep half guard a lot, and I could sweep every blue belt in the room 20 times, not all the time, there's some studs out there that are, and then they know your game and all this other stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what am I learning? What am I developing? How am I getting better by constantly going to my go-to moves? And I think one of the things that best represents that is when you move up in the belt ranks. You talked a lot about trying everything and realizing things just aren't for you. But I think that, as you start to grow in the belt ranks, you start to realize, particularly brown belt is where I really felt like it started to happen. You start to see that, ideas and techniques that before you might have said, well, my body just doesn't work here this way, or, this just isn't for me. You start to recognize, well, the reason why it wasn't for me is because the timing was a little bit off, or maybe I was going to it from a wrong angle. So you kind of get a more introspective, and I've been finishing. I never used to finish triangles. Now I finish a lot more triangles because I figured out different ways. And jiu-jitsu is fun. You learn to do shit like that through jiu-jitsu.
Hey, son. Mom says you barely touched your dinner.
Sorry, Dad. I'm just torn on something.
Tell me about it.
So, Jimmy is throwing a big party on Saturday, but that's when the big leg lock seminar is.
That's quite the pickle.
Yeah! If only there was a way to party and do heel hooks. Why can't I ever do both?
Well, now you can! Holy pretzel!
Whoa! Who are you?
I am Acai Bot, here to spread the word of the newest grappling party craze! Stay away from us, please! This August, the people behind Subspectrum are bringing you BJJ Woodstock, the world's first jiu-jitsu music festival.
Awesome!
I'm calling the police. They will have live performances, open mats, seminars, and tournaments to join. Oh, I think I'm gonna faint. Plus title matches featuring professionals like Jake Watson and William Tackett.
I love William Tackett!
Tickets are going fast, so sign up now using the link below or go to www.bjjwoodstock.com.
I will! Thanks, Acai Bot!
Be well, tiny flesh creature!
Dad, wake up! We gotta go buy tickets!
Right after packing, son. We need to move so he can't find us again.
BJJ Woodstock, the biggest party in grappling, hits Des Moines, Iowa on August 21st to the 23rd.
I think that's a really good question that I would want to have for both of you, as said shitty blue belt that both of you could sweep 20 times with no problem. I think a lot of people at every stage end up running into, and like I think the biggest thing, possibly more so than just getting discouraged from how hard jiu-jitsu is the idea that you're not moving forward, like the idea of hitting a plateau and you're not really sure what's going to get you to that next level. So like starting with you, Kev, when you hit those plateaus, like what was it like for you when you started to feel like, did you ever feel your game start to stall up, or was it always like constant?
I'll tell you this, like the plateaus don't ever stop. Like even as a black belt, like I hit areas where I just feel like, man, I'm just, malaise about this. I'm not getting any better. I'm not showing any significant improvements. I'm not feeling like I'm an all-star today for whatever reason. And, that's just part of the game. And the reason being is because you don't learn jiu-jitsu in a day-to-day process or a week-to-week process. You learn jiu-jitsu and like you look at yourself from 6 months from now and you say to yourself, okay, cool, wow, like look at myself 6 months ago and I'm not much better of a grappler than I was before. And in particular, in more specific rationale, the reason why so many black belts quit or so many blue belts quit when they get their blue belt is because it's the first time in their lives where they really experience that plateau. Because when you're a white belt, it's all up, baby. There's no plateau. Everything, your life sucks. So everything, every day is an improvement because it's like, shit. Did I do a little bit better than I did yesterday? Awesome. I'm going to keep coming back because
it didn't get tapped.
Exactly. So you're always supposed to get your ass kicked. So you don't know what a plateau is. You don't know what being horrible is. So when you get your blue belt, there's always going to be that little bit of time where you're like, wow, like. Cool, sweet. I'm so excited I got my blue belt, but man, I just don't feel like I'm getting any better. I don't understand why this isn't happening. And if you stick through that, eventually you're going to realize that it's not just a plateau. It's just the degree of the improvement, the steepness or I can't think of the word, but the slope of the improvement is just very low as opposed to the angle of the improvement is very low as opposed to what you think it is. But plateaus happen, baby. Everybody goes through plateaus. Like exactly. I'm sure, Frederick, you still have moments where you just feel like, well, shit, man. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But right.
No, definitely. I think the most important thing is just to try to learn new skills. So if you feel like you're plateauing, like I always tell the people, like look at something and just for the next 2 months, that's going to be your thing. So. Let's say you feel like you're stagnating, then okay, now I'm just I play guard normally. Okay, let's say you're blue belt, right? Because obviously for me, it's going to be like much finer details. But if you're a blue belt, just, okay, normally you play guard. Okay, now no playing guard anymore. You're just going to try to knee slide pass or you're just going to try to over-under pass. And it's going to suck. It's going to suck for a while, And maybe it's not even, maybe you even realize after a while, okay, I really suck at it, but then you just need to, and then you just need to find something else, And then it's like you're in school and you learn math or something, You're not, you learn it bit by bit, and then after a while, everything. Okay, in my case, still nothing.
Yeah, but, I don't think any of us here can count, so you're in good company.
But in general, like. It's like takes time, to find all the puzzle pieces, and then you get closer and closer to getting the whole picture. And I think that's just I always tell that people, but most people they won't do it because it's not especially when that okay, I can just heel-hook that guy, or I can just if I just go for his ankle, like I'm gonna tap him. When he's playing guard, and normally you can sit back and you can just like take his foot, but no. you gotta go through that.
Because you're not gonna be able to do that every time to everybody. There's gonna be guys out there that you're not gonna be able to hook. There's
this dark voice in the back of your head that's just wrist lock the white belt. It's okay. No one's gonna know.
I always say this too. Like the only thing I hate more than a white belt is a blue belt. And I don't really hate white belts because the only thing I hate about white belts is they hurt me because they're spazzing and they don't really know what's going on. But, white belts, at least they understand that they don't know anything. Like they're everything for them is
Not all.
Not all, but exactly. The problem with the blue belt is now, because you've got that colored belt, you think you know a few things, and when you really don't. And the biggest thing that, when blue belts come up to me and they ask me specific questions, and they're like, "Hey, what do you think I could do this about this, and this?" I look at them and I say, like, "Well, honestly, like everything you're doing is horrible." I mean, I can help you
so many times.
Yeah, but it's the idea of, don't be so arrogant to think that, you just, what you really need to do is just keep training, and eventually things are going to start to get better. So much of blue belt is just realizing, okay, cool, like I'm going to hold this person here and I'm not going to let them hurt me because like I got hurt for so long as a white belt. Now I know at least I can hold this guy still and he's not going to hurt me anymore. And I can be like, sweet, I won. But
I think that is why you have to, like, normally in a big gym, like the small guys are usually like higher level than the big guys, just because as a smaller guy, you're going to end up in positions where, because, okay, even though if you're the best one under 70 kilos in your gym, but okay, you're going to roll with the guy that weighs 100 kilos, and he's going to put you in half guard, in bottom half guard, even though you normally just do burn bolos. Where if you're a big guy, especially, it's just like, because I'm like obviously, like, I'm a professional athlete, I'm the strongest, most conditioned guy at the gym, and I'm the best at jiu-jitsu. So who's gonna put me in a bad spot? You need to put yourself in a bad spot, and try to and really push yourself that way. And that's why I think, or girls too, like, I think that's why you have a lot of times you have like always you have very successful girls, from smaller countries. Like, I know Fionn, for example, is the first one in the UK to really like win important stuff, or because if you're a girl, you're gonna get like put in every bad situation every day pretty much. So still when then you go compete against it's worse for you when you're competing, when you're in the gym, fighting a big guy and he puts you in half guard, you're used to it. So then when you're fighting a girl in competition, like, you're just like, what even is that,
I mean, like just for example, there's this girl at my gym who's like begun to make her name for herself at like the IBJJF and like a bunch of fight to wins. Her name's Gabby Etzel, and she is like about 80 pounds maybe. Like, and she's just in college. If I don't, and I'm like $170 right now, especially because I'm fat. If I don't roll with her like she's a full grown man, I'm just gonna get stomped. Like, I'm done.
I had to piggyback on what you were saying, Frederick. I met Matt Serra one time, which I trained with him up in Long Island when we went up there to Marcelo school. We went around. My head instructor was on the Ultimate Fighter with Matt when Matt Serra was the coach, so they're pretty tight. So we got to train with his gym, and one of the things he said to that regard, and it was always a cool little analogy I always like to remember, is like you have two people that start jiu-jitsu. And one guy is, who knows, a world-class athlete. He has a huge athletic background. He's big. He's strong. He understands how to compete. And then you've got some other dude that's smaller, maybe never did athletics, but just wants to kind of takes this jiu-jitsu thing up because, he wants to get a little more self-confidence or wants to get in shape or whatever he wants to do just off of a whim. So when both of these guys start, obviously the guy who is the super athlete, bigger, stronger, faster competitor is going to smash this dude for a long time. But what's going to happen is that this guy is going to become complacent. Not always, but he's going to become complacent with doing things the wrong way because they are effective. Whereupon this guy, all he has is technique. He has absolutely no other recourse to fall back on, but the idea of saying, I'm going to do whatever coach told me to do because that's the only bearance I have for survival at this point, because that's the only thing I know. So as they continue to grow, up until about purple belt is when they kind of get even, but as they continue to grow, this guy's obviously going to grow at a faster trajectory, while this guy is going to grow a little bit slower. But eventually, they're going to get to a point where upon this dude can no longer continue to do things incorrectly. The athlete can no longer continue to do things incorrectly because this guy's technique is starting to trump that. Whereupon now they hit a point where this guy has to realize, okay, cool, shit. In order for me to be able to submit higher level guys, brown belt guys, purple belt guys, or even be able to implement my game plan, I have to say, okay, cool. I have to think and go back and realize, okay, cool. I can't keep doing this shit wrong. I can't rely on my strengths. I have to rely on the technique in order to cross that bridge. And that's the growth for everybody, you know.
Yeah, I think I had that especially a lot, like when I was still competing in Germany, you know, or in like Netherlands or whatever. Like not super small, but like, you know, like not elite guys, but for Europe good guys, you know. And yeah, with a lot of those guys, you know, especially in like the heavier weight classes, yeah, you know, it's just like I always felt once you take them out of the element and they're in a bad position, you know, they're just not used to being in a bad spot, you know, where, okay, if you're like, even to be honest, even like at a really high level, you know, it's like sometimes like, okay, like if I, like, for example, at that Polaris, I thought like, yeah, like Ross, like, think he weighed in maybe like 79 kilograms or something. Like, but to smash him, like when you have, like when he's like in bottom side control, it's really, really difficult, you know, way more difficult than it would be against most 100-kilo guys, you know. It's definitely like, yeah, again, the really high level, obviously it gets less, but especially when I was like a purple belt, I always felt that where the big guys just, once they're out of the element, it just becomes like super easy, and you're like, okay, you really never had somebody on your back, right? Like, because then it's like, you know, it's like that brown belt that has his own gym, you know, somewhere in whatever, Germany or England or whatever, has his own gym, never really trains with, and never puts himself in a bad spot, you know, always just smashes his
He's like the king of the castle.
Exactly. And you're like, man, what a fucking tough fight. Like, to sweep him, impossible. And then you're on his back and you're like, Jesus, like feels like a white belt, you know. No, genuinely, like I had that a bunch of times where you're like, man, that guy is the strongest guy on earth, you know, like he grabs your neck and you're like, like that's gonna be horrible. But then you get like, you fight hard, you get a sweep, and then you're on the back and you're like, oh, that actually, what is that? Like the skill just literally drops from black belt to blue belt, you know, like really happened to me a bunch of times.
Gordon and Gary Toonen talk about that. Tonin, I always say Toonen. Gary Tonin always talk about that, about one of their greatest training attributes is the fact that they do bad positioning drills. They train from bad positionings all the time, just because you have to be aware of that. Because when you're, like you said, when you're a top level competitor and you're training in a gym, like the amount of times you're going to have someone on your back or someone in a dominant position for you, it's not going to happen a whole lot. So until you're prepared to deal with that and understand what it means to have someone on your back and attacking you, you go back to being a white belt in that position or blue belt in that position.
Yeah, like for me, I mean, there's not going to be one training session where nobody's going to take my back, you know, like,
right?
Because I always, you know, like to put myself in bad spots. So I maybe, you know, I try something, you know, and I'm just like, okay, let's see what happens if I go that way, and then all of a sudden somebody's on my back, and I'm like, oh, didn't work out. And then it's like, okay, great, now I can work on my back escapes, you know, and like I always figure new things out to escape, you know, or even just like smaller things, you know, like maybe I try a sweep, and yeah, you know, it's just like, yeah, I end up like with somebody, you know, guillotining me or whatever, because, you know, I just like did it for the first time, but I never really care, because then I'm like, okay, now that guy's a guillotine, great, I can work on, because now I can figure out some tricks to defend guillotines, you know. Yeah.
My coach Ed, he has a term for it that I think he says it, like he announces that that's what we're doing before sparring. He says, "All right, guys, it's time for bad position parties," and it's like we're all just gonna get into bad positions and then start the roll from there, and we got to work our way out or get submitted. And it is an invaluable way for. I think it's one of the easiest ways for like lower belts, if they're on their own, to get better. Like you just put a white belt in a dominant position and then tell the other white belt to get out of it. That is a way for iron to sharpen iron really easily.
Yeah. I think also like what a lot of coaches do, at least in my gym, is just like when you pair people up, you're just gonna give that guy his worst nightmare round, where okay, that guy is his kryptonite. So you're just gonna keep on giving them that specific guy until they're good in that position, or you see somebody losing, in competition because I know he just can't, like, he has a good close guard against anyone, but there's just that one guy is so strong he can't do anything against it with his close guard. So you just keep on pairing him up with that guy until he figures it out, right? I think that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
I just wanted to say, like, one of the last things I wanted to ask was one thing that you've been sort of talking about this whole time, and also in the interviews you did leading up to Polaris, is that, the jiu-jitsu in the UK is very insular. Like you were talking about, like, since when I realized it was all UK guys, like, I know all of them, like, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Could you talk more about what jiu-jitsu is like currently in Europe?
I mean, to be honest, I can only really speak for the UK, so not really about Europe, because also in Germany, I'm not, for the last 2 years, I didn't really follow any other European jiu-jitsu. Actually, like, in terms of Europe, like, Poland, I think is really, really strong. A lot of good gyms there. But there in the UK, especially in London, I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't even say that most people, know each other, because there's so much jiu-jitsu that still, like, there are a lot of people, a lot of high-level guys that I never met, or never trained with or competed against. But especially the submission-only scene, like, the submission-only scene is, like, really tight. Like for example, they did a quintet-style tournament where they had, like, team North versus South. And, like, me and Ross, like, Ross was doing the team and he put me on the team, because we're friends, So it's like, like, again, with Ross, I trained a bunch of times. With another guy, Silvio, in the competition, trained a bunch of times, And then even the guys I never trained with, I still, like, I know I'm still friendly with all of them, see them because they're only, like, a couple of, I mean, there are a couple of shows, but there are not that many jiu-jitsu competitors, right? So if you have like Grapple Fest, and they have like 30 matches on their card, they're just going to be the same guys over and over again, right? So you see each other at every event or something, So especially the submission only scene is really tight. Like the gi scene, I think it's there's not too much like training together. I think that's but especially the submission only scene, because the gi level is like, at our level, like, if you want to train gi, like, you have amazing gi training. You have Roger Gracie Academy, amazing, gi training. Checkmate, I know, Victor Stima's gym, in England. A lot of places where if you train with gi, like, you have the level is so high, you don't really need to train with anyone else. But especially submission only, I mean, because at my gym I'm the only submission only guy, right? At other gyms, that guy is the only submission only guy, or he just doesn't have a big gym in general. So that where, especially, like, like, I probably, like, train maybe like once a week with other people, I would say, or maybe like 3 times a month. But a lot of the other guys, they are literally, like, training from all different gyms, training together every single day. Like, there's always one every day. There's one open mat somewhere in London, at some gym, where basically you're gonna have the toughest training in Europe, I think. Like I usually go on Monday to an open mat, and then, I mean, literally you have, like, I think we had times where you would have Ross, I know, Jackson Sousa, Daniel Strauss, Silvio, a lot of really high level guys, training to, like, where you literally have like 10 really high level black belts together, and then it's like it's the same training you would get anywhere else in the world, really. But yeah, you can't do it at just one gym, you know.
Yeah, we do pro training here in Tampa, and we've got a couple of ADCC guys that are ADCC vets that come in, a couple of big submission only guys that come in and train. And I really think that one of the greatest attributes to pushing a high level athlete like yourself to that next level is to figure out whatever you need to do to actively search out high level competitors to compete with and to train with every day to push you to that next level.
I even went a step further, because now I feel like, with jiu-jitsu, I really feel like I don't really need there's nobody really that can push me too much, in jiu-jitsu, besides if I would go to like Atos or Henzo's or Marcelo's. But then I feel like, I want to compete against Kane Duarte. I want to compete against, Mateus Diniz. I want to compete against Gordon, so I don't want to go train at those gyms, because, I want to compete and beat those guys and not train with them, But obviously that are the guys where you have like one round, and you're going to be, and it's going to be, that's going to push you, where here, even the high level guys, it's not going to really like push me to that level. So what I did was, I just, instead of getting in jiu-jitsu, I basically just went to wrestlers, and I went here in the UK. I trained with my wrestling instructor. His name is Lubomir Kumbarov, and he's 4-time Bulgarian national champion.
Wow, that's a big deal. Bulgaria's real wrestling.
And he was teaching Roger. He was teaching at his school for a long time, and so he has like jiu-jitsu experience as well for a long time. If you're like on YouTube, his wrestling instructioners on Warrior Collective or his DVDs, they're like honestly like legit, like super high level. So training with him, because that Polaris, they posted for promo video where I tapped somebody just with a cradle, where I just had him in a cradle and tapped him with it. But that wrestler, he can do that on me, and he weighs 75 kilos. He can literally, like, let's say I shoot on him, and he gets me in a cradle, like he taps me just with pressure from that, because he's like so ridiculously good.
Right.
So his guillotines, because his front headlock, from wrestling is like ridiculous. And then him training grappling for that long, he just figured things out, like where he has like made wrestling moves into submissions, and he can tap me with all of those moves, and I'm much bigger and I'm like an elite grappler, so it all works, right? So I went to train with him, and he just, I spar with him for 30 minutes, like that's gonna push me more than any jiu-jitsu guy, because he's just gonna put that relentless pace on me, never gonna let me rest a single second, So that really helped. And then I went, I had the chance to go to Belarus to train with, where I got private trained twice a day from my friend Javid, who got third place at the Rio Olympics in 2016 in Greco-Roman at 85 kilograms. He's from Dagestan. He's like mates with Habib and like those guys, So like 100 kilo, like absolute monster. And then I was training with that guy twice a day. And I mean, that's just like the toughest training I've ever experienced, And obviously, okay, if I would pull guard, obviously, I wouldn't get the same training. But
right.
I mean, just like I never like I feel like if I get hold of somebody's leg in jiu-jitsu, I'm not even sweating, to finish them, because literally like the first time I shot on that guy, I shot that single leg and he sprawled on me, I felt like a house collapsing on me, right? Like literally like nothing I've ever felt from any jiu-jitsu guy, or even like wrestlers, you know, because if you're like an Olympic like level athlete, you know, like it's a whole different level. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm gonna continue doing. Is just to seek out that, because after that week, I don't think I've ever felt so tired in my life after 6 days of training twice a day with that guy, you know. So yeah, that's what my strategy basically
Yeah,
is.
and there's even aside from the obvious, learning how to wrestle and learning how to experience because again, when you think about what you do, the level of competition you compete at, obviously there's a technical level of being able to perform, complicated jiu-jitsu techniques. But I think the reality of it is the athleticism is at the next level. The guys you train with, like, it's not like rolling with just some weekend warrior in the gym. It's, you're rolling with legit world-class athletes that push the pace at that world-class level. And because you go out and you search out these world-class athletes and you play their game, you start to learn what it's like to really have to perform and really have to endure in that.
And also, like, I feel ashamed to say I'm like a world-class fighter,
right,
like athlete, if I have those, wrestlers,
right,
like literally, like, because I mean, like literally you can't even compare like just like the abilities in grappling, like just in grappling, that those guys have, like the details, or like how well they move, like even in jiu-jitsu, like you don't even have that, because I mean, jiu-jitsu, how long is it around for, like, let's say realistically mid-90s, before it was valetudo, so
well, like the Gracies like to claim like 100 years. So like, let's just say 100 years. Wrestling, we've been wrestling for thousands.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
And if you train with somebody like with like a really high level wrestler, like I don't know, Gordon was saying that Steve Mocco, his wrestling coach, was like, he wouldn't even, he just wipes the floor with him, because that is just like literally like that, the elite level of wrestling, I mean, and that's even like, okay, I don't even want to know how it feels like if you would have to wrestle like, I don't know, Sajulayev or something, or Kyle Snyder. Just that elite level. So just the experience of, the way they train, because like I had like another guy training me there who is a 2-time world champion, but he couldn't spar with me or drill with me because he had a shoulder injury. So I had like a 2-time world champion from Dagestan and an Olympic bronze medalist, just showing me the ways that they train, the ways that they drill, the way, just everything. And then here in England, when I train with Lubo, he's just also on the whole, he grew up wrestling in, Bulgaria in like the best wrestling schools, and he's like high level competition for that many years. So just like the tips on competing, on preparation, just everything, it's just, I don't think you could get that from many jiu-jitsu instructors or in general from athletes, because even if you let's say you have like some amazing instructor like Marcelo Garcia, even he's like saying like, you don't need to do weights, you don't have to do that, just do jiu-jitsu, like, well, okay, obviously it can work out, but that's not how it goes, you want to be a professional athlete, like you should train like a professional athlete, so just seeing like how those guys train, like with what, and like Lubo, he gave me so many tips that like, because I always used to like, because I was used to finish matches every time so quickly, I was never used to go like long distance, in a lot of matches, now I had 3 10-minute matches, and just, his tips on how to pace myself, control my breathing, and just all that stuff, like, helped me so much, where,
I real quick, I have a buddy, high level purple belt, actually trained out of Unity for a while, Jeff Nelson, and he used to be, before he got into jiu-jitsu, he was a D1 rugby player. He was like he was going to play in New Zealand before he tore his ACL, and so he is never stopped lifting weights. So he's but just like I think we actually have to, we're running up on time here, Frederick. We're gonna have to have you back because this is an amazing talk. But in closing, I wanted to say that your story it really hits a lot of the archetypal like martial arts motifs, wherein like you started training with like a bunch of guys in your homeland but wanted to grow, so you went on this journey that you're still on, and you traveled all around, you're looking to gain knowledge, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for sharing that with us, and we can't wait to follow where it goes.
Also I want to say, because I never had somebody to show me any techniques, you know. Like, I mean, okay, some techniques, obviously, you know, but I never had like an instructor to just show me techniques. So like everything I learned was like for me watching YouTube or, you know, matches.
Or you playing UFC Undisputed 3.
Or playing UFC Undisputed.
Yeah, wait for when I fight MMA, then you can see all the
is that a jump that's happening?
Yeah, like I mean, that's also a reason why I train so much wrestling, just because I want to fight MMA in like the next couple of years. So just trying to get the wrestling to the level that it has to be. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is definitely something we're going to have to talk about. And but if you wanted to, at this point, if you wanted to plug anything that our listeners should go follow or do anything, now would be the time.
Okay. Just first of all, follow me on Instagram. It's at Coroninho, CORONIHO, I think. Hopefully that's correct. And
we'll have it listed down below.
Okay. And because that's, I mean, what jiu-jitsu is all about. Like,
it's all about Instagram, exactly, right? Exactly. Who gives a shit about the jiu-jitsu? Just like it follows on Instagram.
So and then otherwise, just want to thank my gym, Carlson Gracie London, and my sponsor, Faisha Preta. And that's about it. Thanks to all my training partners. Thanks to you guys for having me. And hopefully I'll be back at some point.
Yeah, you're great. It's a good interview, man. You're an awesome dude, man. You really have some very insightful tips and ideas on jiu-jitsu.
Interview.
Yes, cool. Awesome, brother.
I mean, cool. Hell yeah. I like to think that we're probably your favorite, though, right?
Of course, yeah. We were definitely better than Roth, but
I don't want to make myself enemies in the jiu-jitsu community.
Okay. Well, like if you wanted to text me, you know, like
right. We know it's no big deal. We don't.
Well, this has been a very lighthearted and fun and energetic episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I have been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host Kevin Gallagher. And Freddy V, because I'm not going to try again out of respect, because I don't think I could do it as good as I did it the first time. But stay safe and catch us next time.
There you go.
Good night.
See you guys. Take it easy. Boom. See you, Frederick.